Hello, welcome to this video, and this video is my Christmas show, so happy Christmas everybody. I'm putting it actually out on New Year's Eve because I thought that would just be more Christmassy. I don't know how many people want to get up on Christmas Day and open their presents and have their mince pies and then watch a video of mine, but I thought as you're snuggling in under the covers, all nice and cozy, waiting for Father Christmas to come, that it would be a great idea if you wanted to check my special Christmas show out. So here we are, hope you're all very excited. 2022, what a year that has been. I think it's, in one way, has been one of the most awful years in my life for a whole host of reasons, but it's also been a fantastic year in terms of my music, the music out there, and this YouTube channel, and setting up my Patreon. I'm banging into my drum kit. It's all very exciting. So I hope you're glad to be here. This is going to be a proper show, but I am going to be asking the question, how prog is Christmas? Because I know if I don't put prog in the title, you won't click on it. So there will be some prog on here. And I'm going to be going through the 10 greatest Christmas traditions and looking at the progginess of them. This is absolutely stupid, but it is Christmas Eve, and I hope you enjoy it. But before we kick off, I would like to show you a little video. So this year I've been doing tons of YouTube stuff. I've been doing tons of Patreon stuff, and through doing YouTube, I have made contacts with some incredible musicians out there. This is a real interesting byproduct of doing this channel. And there's two projects I have on the go at the moment that have totally come out of this channel with musicians that I've made in contact through this channel. One is a new trio with the incredible virtuoso guitarist Roy Marchbank, which you'll be hearing of more next year. And this week, in fact on Wednesday, I had my first gig with my new band Nataraja, which combines sort of Indian classical music, Jimi Hendrix and the Mahavishnu Orchestra. It's just like as though this channel had created a band, and I'm absolutely buzzing about that. When we were in the rehearsal rooms with Nataraja, getting the new gig together, we had a little bit of a jam on a Jimi Hendrix track. We jammed on Manic Depression. So this is only iPhone footage, but I thought to kick off this Christmas show, I will show you that video, and we'll kick off with some music because that's what it's all about. So, but keep tuned, there's going to be some prog on the way. Anyway, here is live from Lode Street Studios, Nataraja with John Jowett on bass and Jack Jennings on guitar, playing the Jimi Hendrix classic Manic Depression. I hope you like it. Here it comes right now. So that was Manic Depression by my new band Nataraja, which we hope will hopefully will be making some music next year, and I'll be able to tell you about it all on this channel. Anyway, here we are, Christmas Eve, right? We've finally got this year out the way. What's it been like for you? It's been a challenging year for me, without a doubt. You know, let's hope next year is going to be a little bit easier. As I said at the start of the show, this year has been a difficult year for me, but it's also been an incredible year. You know, where I've like getting in touch with Nataraja, Michael Walden, my big hero, and actually have him coming on this channel. That was an incredible thing. Setting up my Patreon and having all those lovely patrons there supporting me, and all the wonderful conversation and chats that we're having over there. And if you are a patron watching this, you may be watching your Patreon exclusive video, which has some extra content on. So I hope you're enjoying that. I've met so many musicians. I've heard so much more new music. It's been an incredible year. And here we are in the last few days of this year, looking forward to Christmas. And I was originally going to do a straightforward 10 greatest Christmas songs video. That's what I decided to do on Christmas. I want to do something Christmassy, so I thought I'd do that. And when I started looking at the songs, well, a number of them are straight prog songs. I mean, Greg Lake, you know, whatever that song's called. This is what you come for, is to watch my memory. What's it called? What's the Greg Lake tune called? Oh my God. Look, we start as we mean to go on, don't we? Do you believe in Father Christmas? That doesn't sound right to me. This is something you get as you get older. And I'm so happy that I've managed to kick off this video with a Edward's memory lapse. Can't believe it. You know, so much of this channel relies on my brain being able to retrieve information at will. That's the whole point of it. And then sometimes the most obvious things will not permeate from the depths up into my consciousness. It's called I Believe in Father Christmas. And it's one of the great Christmas songs, isn't it? I feel that whenever a band gets Christmassy, they get proggy. Right? This is something that's something I start to notice. Something like Frankie Goes to Hollywood, The Power of Love. For me, when I hear it, it's out and out prog. So I start to delve into that album, and of course there we have a 13-minute epic on Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. We have the title track Welcome to the Pleasure Dome with Steve Howe on guitar. And suddenly I started to think, oh my God, when it comes to Christmas, prog and Christmas seem to go together. You know, in fact, most prog bands could easily make a Christmas album. And I do believe perhaps the greatest Christmas album ever made, if we take the Phil Spector one and move it out of the way, because that's definitely not prog. But it's Phil Spector prog. When it comes to soul and, you know, rhythm and blues, is not Phil Spector the prog end of that, you know? And is that why he's able to pull off the great Christmas album he does? But anyway, another one of the greatest Christmas albums ever made is the Jethro Tull Christmas album. And of course, Jethro Tull are perhaps the most Christmassy rock band that's ever made. So I started to think, oh my God, you know, Christmas is pretty proggy. And I have what I call a prog's eye view of the world. I think that's my basic outlook on life. I see the world in a certain way, and I think I'm gonna call that the prog's eye view. I'm bringing a new concept onto the channel here. You know, we've this year we brought in the English aesthetic. We brought in quite recently the progometer. And now I'm going to bring the prog's eye view. The prog's eye view is when you look at the world through prog's eyes. This is where we may watch Harry Potter, and Harry Potter is definitely a prog film. Does this all make sense to you? You know, as I sit here shivering in the cold, I'm talking to you. Can you see this? As I'm talking to you here in England, where nobody could put the heating on because we'll all not be able to pay our mortgages and we'll become destitute. We're all sat here. You think I'm wearing this hat for Christmas reasons, don't you? That's what you think, that this is here for Christmas reasons. No. And the thing is about this as well that really frustrated me when I started this video is that the way I set the camera up does not give justice to this hat. So I'm just going to give the hat some justice while I say this. Yeah, the reason I'm sat here looking like this, right, like that, is because I'm absolutely freezing cold. And now you've seen this view, you can see who we've got watching over the proceedings. He's always, where is he? This guy here is always watching over the proceedings, a dirty piglet in the background, making sure that it's all going well. And of course, having a dirty piglet watching over you is pure prog, isn't it? Is it not prog? Well, let's find out now if Christmas is prog. So what I've done is I have pulled up, and I've done it again. I meant to do 10, and I've only done 9. See, I get into this and I forget. So I've got to think of a Christmas pastime that's not on my list. I basically went into top 10 Christmas pastimes on the internet, and I pulled 10 out and sort of got the 10 sort of favourite ones, and then I have sort of put them in order of progginess, I think. So what am I going to have at number 10? I'm going to have Christmas films. Right, I'm writing it in. Now, why am I writing it in? Christmas films, okay? I am a big fan of film. If I could have my own way, I would be doing a lot more about film on this channel. I've done one video about film where I've looked at my 10 favourite Powell and Pressburger films, and of course nobody here really got that. It's had a few views, but I am a really big film fan as well as a music fan. And I've pulled out some of my favourite Christmas films, right? So there's a whole host here. I'm just going to read out the ones I've got. At number 1, it's probably It's a Wonderful Life for me, the Capra classic from 1946. I also love the Alistair Sim version of A Christmas Carol. Incredible British Christmassy film. I've got Edward Scissorhands in there as well. Absolutely one of my favourite Christmas films. Nativity. Nativity is a little bit like taking the Lars von Trier dogma concept and applying it to British Christmas films. You know, I love the fact that Nativity was made through improvisation, and of course anybody who knows my progometer, the use of improvisation to extend form is a prog quality, and it's used in Nativity. So there we have the beginnings of my thesis here in analysing Christmas. Is that we can actually look at certain things and go, well, is that prog? And I would say that Nativity, albeit a very happy, funny, Christmassy film, if you look at the structure of it, is quite groundbreaking in the way it's been made. And the use of improvisation to actually drive the storyline is very interesting. We'd of course seen this before in films like Ghostbusters, Spinal Tap, and before that in the work of Mike Leigh, and of course Lars von Trier. You know, so that way of making film, which is aligned very closely to the way, say, Miles Davis would make his late 60s, early 70s albums. There's a similarity there that is interesting, right? Yeah, this is what this video is going to be like, I'm afraid. So yeah, I've got Nativity. I've got the Apartment, which is a Christmas film, or is it? It's in the same bracket as Die Hard, but The Apartment, which has Shirley MacLaine and Jack Lemmon, one of my favourite films. Love Billy Wilder. I really wanted to put Some Like It Hot on the list of my favourite Christmas films. Of course, it's got nothing to do with Christmas, but every Christmas it was on when I was a kid. Wizard of Oz, Some Like It Hot, every single Christmas. I only watched it at Christmas. So when I imagine watching Some Like It Hot, and Oliver, that's another one. All those, Oliver, Wizard of Oz, Some Like It Hot, to me are Christmas films. I've got Trading Places on the list, which was made, we know, with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. And who directed that? It's about 83, 84, 85, isn't it? Trading Places. It's the same guy that did The Three Amigos and American Werewolf. John Landis, the guy that directed Thriller from Michael Jackson. There we go. You see, there's a bit of film knowledge up here as well if we delve deep. But on this list of Christmas films, I would say that as soon as we get to Christmas and the sort of fantasy and the sort of wintry aesthetic, the English aesthetic, but we also have a German aesthetic wound into Christmas as well. And of course, here in England, our royal family, back in Victorian times, when Queen Victoria married Prince Albert, who was German, he imported a whole bunch of German aestheticness into the British Christmas, so it's wound in. You know, in England we have that sort of Dickensian Christmas. That's one aesthetic. We have that sort of medieval Good King Wenceslas looked out aesthetic, and we also have this German aesthetic of all, you know, the little wrapped boxes and the Christmas tree and all that sort of stuff. And of course, underlying that, I mean, it's the most prog thing about Christmas, right? We have the hallucinogenic Agaric mushroom aesthetic, right? Which is embodied in Father Christmas himself, you know. So I don't know how much you know about this, but originally a lot of the traditions of Christmas come from Northern European, Norway, Sweden, Finland. I'm not quite sure because I hadn't planned to talk about this, but this idea that they had a shaman, which would be like a winter spirit shaman, and they would eat mushrooms and have hallucinations, and the idea that God, this has got weird already, hasn't it? This is what you came for. So in Northern Europe, they would eat Agaric, I hope I'm saying it right, mushrooms, the red and white mushroom, the sort of cliche mushrooms, which would cause hallucinogenic things to happen. The reindeer up there would sit and eat these mushrooms and urinate, and the urinations would come out. And if you drank the urine, you would then see flying reindeers, right? Is this true or not? Am I just making this up? I knew when I started that this video was going to get weird. But that whole Father Christmas winter spirit, which is sort of the green man, is the spirit of winter, right? That is wound into Christmas, and all those things, of course, all those fantasy elements get pulled into the films of Christmas, right? And I think what we get with the Christmas films is something which is a very, very prog, because it's fantasy and it's conceptual. It often messes with time and space and all sorts of things. It's the fantasy element and the fantastical element that we wind in to Christmas that I think makes it seem so prog. I think the greatest Christmas story is of course A Christmas Carol by Dickens. I actually think this is the greatest story ever made, and it really winds in so many ideas into that story which go way beyond Christmas itself. I think with A Christmas Carol there's this idea of almost on a personal level, how you deal with trauma and how trauma manifests itself in your life, and how the only way to deal with trauma is to be able to go into the past, right? To reframe your view of the past to inform the present, which will change your future. So there's that aspect of it, but there's also a sort of pre-Marxist socialist aspect of redistribution and how important that is, and looking after the underprivileged, which I think at this moment in time we need to think of more and more, you know. And I think that's really is truly what Christmas is about. It's about the, you know, personal manifested itself in the redistribution of our wealth. And wealth isn't just things, it's thoughts and ideas. And I think that's what Christmas is about. And I think that in a way that's what all art is about, you know. And that's why I've always said that I think that A Christmas Carol is the greatest story ever written. And there's so much in it. So, at 10, I have Christmas films with that heavy message. You know, is this prog? Is that conceptual fantasy-based story that gets to the truth? Is that not prog? I think it's pretty prog. So I'm going to, on the whole, Edward Scissorhands on my list. Edward Scissorhands, It's a Wonderful Life, Christmas Carol, The Nativity. You know, those films are definitely proggy. I don't know whether the Apartment at Trading Places are. And what's my kids have written on my list at the bottom, Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Really? Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday. Have you seen it? Right? Have you seen it? They're out in space, the Guardians of the Galaxy. They guard the galaxy. Right? And for Christmas, they decide to kidnap the guy from Footloose. God in heaven, it's happened again. Who's the actor in Footloose? Oh, it's a good job I got the internet here to help me, isn't it? Footloose. I'm gonna a 1984 film, yeah, starring Kevin Bacon. Have you not seen Guardians of the Galaxy? I recommend it highly. It's absolutely stupid and it's entertaining and it's pure prog. So that's my 10th one on the list. It's taken me ages to get through that. I'll have to go a bit faster or we'll be here on Christmas Day. So shall I move to number 9 on my list of Christmas traditions and how prog they are? So at number 9, right, I have got Santa's Grotto. This is something that really triggers deep memories for me. Here in the town I grew up in, there used to be a shop that's no longer there, and I would trawl down with my mum a few weeks before Christmas really, and we would queue up and go into Santa's Grotto. And this involved being led into a room where we sat inside what was supposed to be Santa's sleigh. In front of us we could see 2 reindeers, and these reindeers were animatronic and they would move like this, and the wind would start up and you could hear Christmas songs, and you'd look out the window and you could see the Christmas, through the windows you could see the Christmassy vista moving past, and it felt like, you know, I'd gone out of my cruddy little town, stepped into this shop, got into, you know, Santa's sleigh, and I was taken to see Santa. This experience of going to see Santa, to Santa's Grotto, is always greater than seeing Santa. Because, of course, when I got out the other end, I wasn't faced with Santa, I was faced with the bloke in a false beard. And every kid in the world knows that that's a bloke in a false beard, right? And then he gave me a present, and that present was always something that was far less than the cost than going to Santa's Grotto. So in other words, it was quite a cruddy present, like a water pistol or something like that. And that letdown at the end always stayed with me. But the thing of going there was always very interesting. Now, more recently, I've taken my kids to see Santa at a modern grotto. Same sort of concept. You queue up, and as you queue up, you walk through this sort of magical, dark, wintry kingdom, Christmas kingdom, full of animatronics. Animatronics are really important at Santa's Grotto, and lots of, you know, twinkly lights and lasers and all that type of stuff. And as you go through, you go around each corner, and there's something else doing this, and there's, you know, somebody doing that, and this is going. And at the end, you then go into what looks like a Victorian, you know, drawing room, and Santa sat there, false beard, obviously not Santa, cruddy present. You know, that is the tradition. I think this really sums up the whole thing about Christmas for me, which is the journey towards it is always the best bit. I've released this video on Christmas Eve, because for me that is the high point of Christmas, when it's all done and it's all ready, and you're sat in there and you've got your little glass of sherry and you've got your, you know, little box of Quality Street or whatever it is, and you can sit there with your nice Christmassy film, go to sleep knowing that all you've got to look forward to tomorrow is stuff, right? It's trying to get your presents, seeing all the relatives you don't want to see, having to eat a Christmas dinner, and then eat the Christmas pudding. We'll get to the Christmas pudding in a minute, you know. So Is Santa's Grotto prog? Of course it's prog. It's definitely prog. You know, it's like anybody that goes to that length to create that sort of spectacle. There's only two things where that would happen. It's a Santa's Grotto and it's a progressive rock gig. Normal gigs, you just get up on stage and play. Not a prog gig, they got to take you on a journey, right? It's always the same thing. It's all about the journey, right? What have I got number 8 on my list? Right, I've actually already dealt with this. Christmas songs, you know. Christmas songs are prog. Without a doubt. And of course, one of the greatest ones is by Greg Lake. It is one of the great Christmas songs. But what about Roy Wood? I wish it could be Christmas every day. Roy Wood is the great unsung prog musician, as far as I'm concerned. An absolute genius that forged, you know, a sort of orchestral version of rock music. With the whole show and the whole shebang. He also, later in the 70s, made what can only be described as jazz fusion albums, which is a sort of amalgamation of rock music, sort of Beatlesque, who was it? Roy Orbison style rock with big band jazz. It's a completely different concept of what jazz fusion is. I've always felt Roy Wood is a genius. I've worked quite closely with some of the guys from ELO. I'm very good friends with Bev Bevan. And, you know, I've played in the band with Bev Bevan for the last few years. And I will announce on this site now, for anyone who's interested, I am no longer playing with Bev Bevan. We have parted ways. So that's something that's happened this year. And he will be going forward without me next to him playing drums, for better or for worse, probably for better. But within all of that world, I've always felt that Roy Wood is a real genius. It really is one of the greats. Probably not that well known in the US, but absolute genius musician. Check out The Move, check out WIERD, check out ELO, which I'm sure you know. Especially the first album, which has got Roy on it. It was his idea, along with Bev, and you know, I'm ranting, but anyway. I can remember when I was in Frost, we were doing a Christmas show, and we decided to do the WIERD song, could be Christmas every day. And it was difficult. There's a lot going on that song. It's definitely prog, without a doubt. But also, when you see, you know, things like The Pipes of Peace by Paul McCartney, as soon as it gets Christmassy, it gets classical and it gets conceptual. And before you know it, people are being prog. And I think I've mentioned Frankie Goes to Hollywood with The Power of Love. What's that song about? Oh, God. What's it? There's another song which is not a Christmas song at all. It's another sort of anti-World War I type of song. Oh, you'll put it in the comments. Shall I just move on? This is what you're going to get with this video. Right, at number 7, I have the Queen's speech. So, if you're watching this on Christmas Eve and you are here in good old Britain, you'll know that for the first time, tomorrow on Christmas Day, our Christmas Day is going to be entirely different, because for the whole of my life and for the whole of anybody's lives for the past 60, 70 years, the focal point of Christmas Day was the Queen's speech. Around about 3 o'clock, after you've had your Christmas dinner, we would all sit down and we would listen to our Queen, our sadly departed Queen, who would tell us about something. And one year, I think it was 91, 92, when her house burnt down, she had what was called an annus horribilis. I've had one of those as well. That's another story. And she had her annus horribilis, and she came on and told us all about that. And it's been a moment. Nobody watches the Queen's speech for entertainment, but it's a tradition here in the UK which is very, very important. Beautifully, because I loved our Queen. You know, as you could probably tell, I'm a massive Anglophile, right? And it's one of the things that comes out, and I use it for humorous, you know, purposes on this channel. I've always got a subtext that Britain is the best at everything and all our bands are the best. It is a joke, and I'll let you in on the joke here. But I am a huge Anglophile, and only our Queen, our incredible Queen, could have created that video, which was for the Commonwealth Games, directed by the guy who did Trainspotting. Can't remember his name. where she has tea with Paddington Bear. Now, our Queen has actually, when she was younger, she had enjoyed getting into acting, and I thought the Queen's performance in that was absolutely incredible. Here's a 96-year-old woman acting with an imaginary bear and really summoning up what we loved about our Queen. Now, I have my opinions about the royal family, I'm sure everybody here does as well, but I think the Queen represented the what is at the heart of the English aesthetic, and it's a calming of the emotions. It's a stiff upper lip, which means sitting back and not getting all shouty, but just sitting back reserved and being able to deflate that sort of histrionics that you often get when things are in crisis by just sitting back and with the odd comment or the odd raise of an eyebrow be able to deflate the situation. And I think this is fundamentally what you get inside the English aesthetic. It was represented by the way our Queen operated over 70 years. And so I'm really going to miss her tomorrow when we watch what will now be the King's speech. And we'll have to see how that goes. But is the Queen's speech Prog? I don't know. But I think what's embodied in it is also embodied in the English aesthetic, which I think plays a huge part of what makes Prog so loved by everybody around the world. So let's move on to number 6. I've got pantomime. All right, I've only ever been to one pantomime in my life, and it was at Wolverhampton Grand Theatre when I was at college, and it had the puppets from Rainbow, Zippy Bungle and George, along with Max Boyce. And one of the things that I find very interesting about the pantomime is it seems to pull into its sort of aesthetic approach the idea of the court jester. And I think the idea of the court jester, which is a character that can deflate the absolute totalitarian view of the king through humour. I think that is really wound into the English aesthetic. So we're back to the English aesthetic here again. And I think it's in pantomime so much. So here is a very English thing. And this is, I say this with a little bit of humour myself. This is me using the English aesthetic as I sit here with this hat on. But, with all these issues around gender at the moment, and all the fighting and hate and the ideologies crashing into each other, surely a much better way of dealing with gender is the English pantomime way of dealing with gender, right? If you think about how that operates within that, and you think how if you take that and transplant that into pop music, you get a lot of the bands that emerged in the 1980s, the Marilyns and the Culture Clubs. And I think the whimsicalness and the playfulness that is there, I think deflates the absoluteness that has now wound into that whole identity politics that we have now. It takes itself too seriously, really. And really, I would much rather adhere to a much more liberal philosophy of letting everybody just do what they want and get on with it. And, as long as someone's not affecting me, you can do whatever you want. And rejoicing in that and rejoicing in the difference. And I think the English pantomime does that so well, doesn't it? Without having to get deep and down and dark into ideology, which of course is a very European thing, isn't it? Ugh. Right, so I'm going to move on for the pantomime. But is the pantomime prog? Of course it's prog. Right, I have been involved in too many progressive rock shows in my time to, not feel at some point that the audience were about to shout, "It's behind you," And I've told a story about a Dream Theatre gig where I went to see Dream Theatre once and had this great big projection, because of course it's all about the show, it's all about Santa's Grotto. They can't just get up on stage and play, they have to have all the video progression, the lights, And there was one point where this evil wolf thing came out and he was threatening this little Dream Theatre fan who was shaking in his boots, I think. I've probably got this all wrong, but this is what it seemed like to me. And if I did get it wrong, it doesn't matter because it's still funny. And Dream Theatre come out. And they start doing all their fast arpeggios. And they're doing all this. And they do it at the wolf. And it goes at the wolf like this. And the wolf gets frightened by the virtuosity and he runs away. And I thought, oh my God, that really sums up. You know, it's like the pantomime villain, isn't it? And what is that pantomime villain? What is it? And of course, we know what it is. It's sex, isn't it? Shall we move on? So, Christmas crackers. Oh, Christmas crackers. Now we get onto the list of Christmas traditions that are just crap, right? I know at some point when I'm doing the Christmas shopping, my kids will say, get some Christmas crackers, Dad, get some Christmas crackers. And I will go and there will be a box of 12 Christmas crackers that will cost about 20 quid. It's a bit like the Santa's Grotto thing. The idea of the Christmas cracker is there's a prize in there, but you know the prize is going to be far less value than what you paid for the box, right? It's diminishing returns. It would be much better to just spend, right, the money you're about to spend on the crackers on some little presents, and they will be crap, right? And then wrap them in some paper and then pull them. But of course, when you pull them, you won't get the bang, right? So what you've got with the Christmas cracker, I think, is, and I read up a little bit about this, so I don't think I know. It was some sweet maker, and this sweet maker, you know how you wrap sweets up and you do those twisty things on the end, and you that's where the structure of the cracker comes from. But he started to put in little poems, aphorisms inside it, and he thought this is quite interesting. But I need to announce the entrance, you know, much like you would expect to announce any decent rock band on stage. It has to be announced with a bang, right? And so he put a small explosive in. So it's those three things that we get with the Christmas cracker. And of course, and then you've also got, there's a subtle ambience of gambling in the Christmas cracker, isn't there? There's a subtle idea that you know, someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. And you know, if you're playing it with a kid, they're always going to try and put their finger down inside the cracker or crapper, which and grab that little cardboard thing in the hope that will somehow cheat it so they will get the business end of the cracker when it opens. Then when you open it up, what do you get? You get, right, a really, really crap toy, unless you're rich. If you're rich, of course, you're going to get an iPhone in your cracker. And everybody who's poor like me, when we pull that cracker, we know there's some rich bastard out there that's pulling that and they're getting an iPhone, which they're casting aside. And what do we get? We get a little fish that tells us whether we've got a hot hand. You know, we get a cutout of very thin plastic in the shape of a fish. That's what we get. We get a sewing kit that will not be able to do anything in reality in terms of sewing, right? That's what we're going to get, okay? A crap present, right? A crap present. Tweezers that don't work, right? And everybody makes out like it will be of use. Oh my God, a safety pin. Oh, well, that'll be useful for me. Right? You will get that, and you will get the worst joke in history, right? I mean, and you'll get a paper hat, right? Which, because the thing is so cheap, will only fit a child's head. And I promise you, on Christmas Day, as you eat your Christmas dinner, you'll be trying to force a crepe paper hat onto your head that doesn't quite fit, whilst holding a little plastic fish to see if it curls up in your hand, which you will then react with delight, whilst knowing that some rich bastard has just got a silver plated back scratcher with diamonds in their rich Christmas cracker that you could not afford, you know, because you can't put your heating on because we're all freezing to death. Bloody Christmas. You know it's only here. It's only here because if they didn't have it, we would all be wrapped up in our little houses, spending as little money as we possibly can. They have to get us out the house somehow and trawl around the shops and buy stuff which is absolutely useless, which will then boost the economy up, right? So the rich bastards can get a Christmas cracker with an iPhone in it. I knew on this video I would get to the heart of Christmas. I need to go and watch Scrooge, don't I? I've gone all Scrooge. But going Scrooge, come on middle-aged guys, going Scrooge is Prog. Okay, shall I move on? Brussels sprouts! That's what I've got here, number 4, Brussels sprouts. Right, Brussels sprouts is the great divider. I like Brussels sprouts. Half the world hates Brussels sprouts. Right, John Jowett, the bass player of IQ, used to call them the devil's bogies. Right, but I like a Brussels sprout. But they do, even if you like them, and when you bite into them, they have an aroma which is somewhere between old socks and farts. Right, if you could learn to appreciate that, then Christmas, your Christmas roast, which will consist of cranberry sauce, a turkey and Brussels sprouts. Those are the things that we don't normally have. They're the things that are brought out. Now, apparently the turkey, the reason why we eat a turkey is because they would have had to keep the chickens in winter for the eggs. So they would kill the turkey. Before the turkey, they would kill a goose. And here in England, the goose is still a Christmas bird that we can eat. Or a peacock. A peacock! In the old days, they would eat a peacock on Christmas Day. Right, I want to eat a peacock. Right, I reckon that person with the cracker with the iPhone in, I bet they're eating a peacock, aren't they? Oh, Christmas. It's all right when you're rich, isn't it? Sat there with your peacock and your posh Christmas cracker. But anyway, where was I? Brussels sprouts. Now, what's interesting to me is the sprout, which is basically a miniature cabbage, isn't it? It's a miniature cabbage. These apparently were very popular in Brussels. So this we can put on the list of the great exports from Belgium. Right, Belgium, I have maligned on this channel and I apologised because I did say at some point, what's actually ever come out of Belgium. And then I realised that Django Reinhardt had come out of Belgium, and I felt very bad because that's a pretty good thing to come out of your country. And I think they do make lace, don't they? And they're not too bad at chocolate. And I like the fact that they've got a statue of a little boy having a piss. That's pretty cool. That is. We haven't got that here in England. If we did have, somebody would have probably pulled that statue down by now and chucked it in the water. But they do have that. But they also have sprouts. And they've named the sprouts after where they come from. And the thing is, I call them Brussels sprouts. You call them Brussels sprouts. But they're actually Brussels sprouts. You look it up. Brussels sprouts. You can't say it. Brussels sprouts. Right. So they're the great divider, aren't they? They're that thing that makes the Christmas dinner more interesting, because the Christmas dinner is infused with inedible stuff, isn't it? Really, it's really nice, but it's got these, and then you have to decide and you have to state whether you like bread sauce. Would you like some bread sauce with your turkey? Oh yes, please. Pass us a bit of the bread sauce. Nobody likes bread. It's tasteless white gloop. Right, that's what bread sauce is. Oh, Andy, I really like some bread sauce, I do. How can you criticise Brussels sprouts and bread sauce? You're such a Scrooge, you are. I knew I'd become a Scrooge on this video. I'm sorry. Shall I just move on? Right, here we go. Come on. Here we go. At number 3 are my Christmas traditions. This has become a real big one here in the UK, and it's lighting up your house with lots of lights outside the front. Right, this is a new thing that happens on Christmas Day, and even I've done it. This year, for the first time ever in my this is my 55th Christmas. And for the first time ever, I've put lights up on the front of the house. So we bought this big long light ropey thing, right? And we were, well, where are we going to put this? Should we put it here? Why don't we thread it out the window? So we threaded it out the window, and I wound it round our front window, and we plugged it on. And a bit later on, when we were driving on, I drove up to my house, and I looked up all the other houses that basically looked like, you know, a late 70s Genesis concert, right, all the way down, and then these feeble lights outlining my window. It didn't make me feel like I was a part of something. It made me feel like a failure, because I'm sure that when you get up into lighting up the front of your house, you get into this sort of Christmassy competition with your neighbour. It's all about trying to outdo them, right? It all goes very glam metal, and you're trying to outdo your opponent through the show of how much electricity you can pump out on Christmas Day on the front of your house. And recently, this has been augmented by the sort of inflatable character. An inflatable Santa, an inflatable reindeer, an inflatable elf that will sound huge outside your house. And this has become a tradition which I can only feel that the more you partake of it, the more it proves you're an absolute idiot, right? Because it shows a part of humanity where it's just opulent and it's showy and it's small-minded. That's what I feel about this. You know, if you're going to have Christmas, put it in your house. Oh, Andy, you're so mean. It really cheers me up when I'm driving around at Christmas. I see all the houses light up, and I think it's wonderful that people put on a show like that. It is wonderful, yes, but I can't help feeling they're not doing it for that reason. Are they not doing it for that reason? They're doing it for their own personal ego. Shall we move on? I'm ruining Christmas, aren't I? Well, who cares? Right, there's nobody watching. No one's going to click on this video. That's what I believe. They're not going to spend Christmas watching me, are they? You know, if I'd have put up the 10 greatest prog moustaches ranked, then they'd all be here now. Ooh, Neil Peart, he had a great moustache, but I don't think it's as good as Steve Hackett's. You know, Steve Hackett was the first originator of the prog moustache, and blah, 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 you know. Lemmy, does his moustache count? Was Motorhead prog? Well, I don't think Motorhead are prog, but Hawkins had their proggy moments. That's what I should be doing right now. But instead, we're going through Christmas pastimes, and I'm rating them for progginess. You've seen, I've forgotten the rating it for progginess. But you know, Brussels sprouts, I don't know, are they prog? Well, you know, only a small handful of society likes them, but they really like them and they obsess over them. So they got that aspect to them. Line up the front of your house, that's definitely prog, that is, without a doubt. Right, so what have I got at number 1? Right, so we got to the last one now. What have I got at number 1 on my list of Christmas pastimes? I have got this thing here. I brought a prop in here. I'll go and get it. Right. Oh, I'll have to stand. This here. This isn't a real one, by the way. This is a pretend one. Okay, this is not real. But this here is the Christmas pudding, and I've put the Christmas pudding on at number 1, and I think that the Christmas pudding, this here, is the most prog thing about Christmas, right? Because what we have here is a little piece of medieval Christmas. You know those 3 Christmases I was talking about? You've got the sort of medieval, you know, Henry VIII, Good King Wenceslas out part of Christmas. Then we have the Charles Dickens Christmas. Then we have the German, you know, Prince Albert with his Christmas tree Christmas, and then underlying that we have the hallucinogenic, you know, flying reindeers Christmas. Well, this takes me back to ancient Christmases, right? Back where people couldn't afford to eat meat, so they had to eat ersatz, mince meat, and pretend this concoction of fruit and herbs was meat. Right, I like that. It's also in the mince pie. Mince comes out. Mince meat comes out. It's not mince. It's not meat. It's ersatz meat. Right? It's a bit like the opposite of the Christmas cracker. The Christmas cracker has cost a ton of money and has got nothing in it. But here we have something that supposedly doesn't cost money, but is simulating something in the olden days was a rarity, which is meat, because Christmas is all about meat, isn't it? Christmas is all about us trying to get through that freezing cold, we can't put the heating on because we can't afford to, time, by eating huge amounts of meat. That's what it is. And there's not enough meat to go around. So we have the Christmas pudding. Here it is, the Christmas pudding. Right. Mince pies are in here. But the Christmas pudding, I think, is a wonderful thing because do you know how many of these have sold this year? These. Right. This sort of. Because this isn't a real one. This is actually a dog's toy. And it does make a sound. And I just thought, this might pet the video up if I, and I'm moving it around. I'm trying to make it as visual as I possibly can, just trying to entertain you. That's all I'm trying to do. Anyway, the Christmas pudding, here it is, the Christmas pudding. Ersatz meat pudding, right? Ersatz meat pudding that is so heavy that after eating a Christmas dinner, only the foolhardy and the gluttonous can eat one of these, which is usually the dad, because the dad has to prove that they've got that dad-like skill of just going that little bit further, a little bit harder, a little bit more. It's where a dad who has lost his male potency in the world through becoming a dad can just show that he's still got that bravado, that even though he's just stuffed himself with a ton of turkey and he's pulled his cracker and he's put his fish on his hand and he's done all that, when someone says, who fancies a Christmas pudding, and everyone else goes, oh, I couldn't eat that, because they know what they're in store for. The heaviest, like what the centre of a black hole is made out of. The heaviest stuff to put in your mouth and chew. It's just dry. It's dry and it's chewy. And you swallow it down and it drops like a lump, like this. Whoa, bang, down into your pit of your stomach on top of the turkey. Right, the only way you can eat is by putting some condensed milk. Condensed milk's a bit of ice cream. Custard's not going to do it. It's got to be cold because this is absolutely boiling hot. It looks like a bomb, and it is. And that fruity, thick lump hits your stomach like a stone, washed down by a tin of condensed milk, right? And this is the great luxury that we've been waiting for, that only the dads can eat. Nobody else wants to eat it, right? So how do you get everyone to eat it? What you do is you take a sixpence. A sixpence, it doesn't even exist anymore. A sixpence, half a bloody shilling or whatever it was in the old money, right? So what you do is you insert a coin into here. And this is the most prog thing that I can think of that happens at Christmas, is you bake one of these ersatz meat, heavy, indigestible pseudo puddings, and inside it you place some money in the hope that somebody will go through it hoping to get that coin, right, at the risk of choking to death on it, right? This has got to be the greatest of the Christmas past. And as I felt this, it's put some horrible, it's put a horrible feeling onto my hands. Christmas pudding. I'll be having a Christmas pudding. Oh, I don't know if I can eat that now. I might eat that later. No, you won't eat it later. You'll have cheese and crackers and some lovely Quality Street or roses. That's what you're going to have later, right? And at this point, remember, at this point, most self-respecting English people are completely drunk, right? Is this the best thing to feed someone who has been drinking from 8 o'clock in the morning? Really? I hope I haven't ruined Christmas for you, but that has been my take on Christmas, and I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, so I think I'm at the end of my video. I want to finish off because most of you switched off at the 15-minute mark. Okay, so you're not here. So I've got the hardcore fans of my channel are watching now, pondering on what the hell they've just seen. But it's not over. I am going now to go over to another part of my studio. Actually, I filmed this yesterday, so my clothes will subtly change. I won't have the hat on. But I'm going to pretend that I'm about to stand up and play you a song. I'm going to play you a little Christmas song. Right, so thanks for watching my channel. Thanks for supporting me. this year. You guys who watch this channel and subscribe, and especially the patrons, I cannot tell you what this has meant for me this year to have you guys there. I've had a difficult year, and the thing that's kept me going is doing this YouTube. As you can tell, I enjoy every minute of doing my YouTube, and I love chatting to you guys. I love getting here. It's like the new jazz for me, right? This channel is like jazz. I love to riff. I love to make it up. This is why Nativity was on my list. I love to come in here, switch the camera on, and just talk nonsense at you. Prog nonsense. The Prog's eye view of the world. And that's what we've been doing this year. And we're getting more and more people coming and visiting and watching, which is absolutely fantastic. What is going to happen next year, I do not know. Hopefully this channel is going to go strength to strength. And it will do because of you guys supporting me. So if you like the video, like it. Subscribe, all that sort of stuff. I wish you all a happy Christmas, right? I wish you all a happy Christmas and a happy New Year. Keep in touch, keep watching, keep listening to great music, and keep going, because that's all we can do. I'm going to walk over to there, my hat's going to miraculously disappear, and I'm going to sing you a song. See you soon.
Okay, this is my version of the famous Christmas song, Jingle Bells, but in 7/8. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one horse open sleigh. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Play and bombshell too. I don't know this bit. I just realised I don't actually know how this bit goes. Sorry, let's try and get back in. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open modulating rhythm. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle bells. Jingle bells, oh jingle bells. I'm gonna play the guitar now. Jingle bells, jingle